Hi, good afternoon everyone. This is Mohan. I welcome you all to today's webinar. And in today's webinar, we are going to learn how to use Kredily's payroll module and process payroll and generate payslips within 15 minutes. And every month, this is only going to take about 5 to 10 minutes of your time to process payroll and generate payslips. So let us learn how to do the setup. And before we begin, I also request all of you to go to Play Store and download Kredily's mobile application so that you can do everything that I'm going to show you on this call on your smartphone itself. Right, so having said that, let's start the webinar. So as this is primarily focused on the payroll module, I'm going to the payroll module directly. So you have the payroll module in the dashboard. So we are going to do the settings first, as the primary thing that we will be doing in the system will be to do the setup. We are going to define all the preferences. We are going to define the PF, ESI, income tax, professional tax, and everything else as well. For that, I'm going to navigate to the advanced settings option. And in advanced settings, there are basic settings that you need to set, like your pay frequency, your pay cycle, your payout date, your date of joining cutoff date. These are all fundamental things, so I'm not going to explain everything in detail. But if you have any questions with regards to these, you can write in your questions in the chat section. I'll take up your questions and I'll be more than happy to assist you on them. Then we also have Payday Calculations. Now you can turn it on or turn it off. Basically, there are organizations which will include week offs and holidays, and there are also organizations which will not include week offs and holidays into their payroll. So if you are one of those organizations which will include week offs and holidays, keep it on, or you can turn it off. Right, so that's about your payday calculation. Just hold on for a sec. There's some connection issues today at my end. Right. So the next option is your PF and ESI settings. So in PF and ESI settings, you can define your PF the way you're calculating already at your organization. And this module is very, very robust that you can even define a custom formula if required. So to show you that, I'm just going to edit the PF settings. And you can either keep it as 12% of basic or 12% of the entire gross salary except HRA, or you can put a fixed amount, like a flat amount, like 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 per annum, whatever the amount is. And you can also define a custom formula depending on what component should be included and how much should be the percentage on those components. So everything can be defined. So I'm going to keep it as 12% of basic to keep it simple. Then you can turn on the statutory minimum ceiling. Statutory minimum ceiling is 15,000. So regardless of how much your salary gets to, your PF will be calculated on the 15,000 rupees, which is the statutory value. You can make your PF as a loss of pay dependent component, or you can make it as a loss of pay independent component. You can include or exclude your employer PF contribution from your CTC as well. So this is again a yes or no option. You can turn it on or turn it off. You can also override your PF. If you turn this option on, system will give you an option to override income tax for a particular employee in the system. And you also have the PF admin charges. You can either include this in the CTC or exclude it from the CTC. And once this is done, the next option is your ESI settings. In ESI settings, there's nothing much to play around. ESI is just the standard thing. It's 0.75% of gross salary for an employee and 3.25% of gross salary for an employer. And the gross should be 21,000 and below for an employee to have ESI. If it is more than that, the ESI will not be calculated by the system automatically. You can include your employer's ESI contribution in the CTC, or you can exclude it from the CTC. Individual override option is also available. Now the next option is your overview, and in overview you will get to see the entire PF details. If you want to make any changes, you can click on edit. You can add all other details here, the PF number, UAN number, EPS number, EESI number, everything can be added in the edit section. The next option is your PT option. In PT option, you can just say PT yes or no, because we all know that different states will have different PT amounts. So you don't have to remember anything. You just have to turn on PT and make sure that you're adding the work location of your employee, and system will calculate PT according to the work location of your employees automatically. Right, so the next option is your declaration settings. In declaration settings, you have an option to set your time window for your employees to submit their declarations or declare their investment declarations. So most of the organization keep it from 1st of April to 31st of March or even 28th of Feb. So depending on organization, they set a different time window. According to your organization, you can also set a yearly time window or even a monthly time window for that matter of fact. Then the next option is to create components. So we have 4 different sets of components that you can create, or types of components that you can create. One is your base components. These cannot be created, but you cannot have a salary structure without these components, because these are also the statutory components. Your basic, HRA, PF, ESI, special allowance, these are all defined by the government. So you're supposed to have these components to have a structure. So the next set of components, or type of components rather, are your recurring components. So you can create any number of recurring components, and recurring component by definition means that these are the components which will come in your salary structure every single month. So these are repetitive. Now we already have created all the components that's required by most of the organizations, but if you want to create another component, you can click on create component and give it a name. So I'm giving a name of March 2022 component or March 2022 allowance. You can set the component type as allowance or reimbursement or contribution. You can include this or exclude this from the CTC. You can make it taxable, or you can even make it non-taxable. And the calculation type, if you say you want to do it flat, you can even put a flat value like 25,000 rupees per annum. Or you can even define a formula like 10% of CTC or 20% of CTC. You can define a formula, or you can keep it a flat value. Or if you want to define this as per the slab, you can do that as well. So for that, I'll be selecting calculation type as slab wise, and now you will have to define a slab. So if the salary falls in between 0 to 3 lakh rupees, the total value of this component will be 15,000 rupees. And if the salary falls between 3 lakh 1 rupees to 5 lakh rupees, then the component value will be 25,000 rupees. And if the salary lies between 5 lakh to 10 lakh rupees, then the value of this component will be 35,000 rupees. So like this, you can create components, you can create slabs and the value of this component and save it. And you can create any number of components, there's no limitation to it. And you can also create variable components. Variable components are the components which are not actually recurring, could be recurring as well, but it varies. It could be or could not be a part of your monthly salary. So a perfect example for a variable component is your annual bonus or your festival bonus, which might not come every month, but it definitely comes once a year, like your Diwali bonus or your annual bonus, for example. Now, if I say I have to give an annual bonus, I'll say it's annual, and the frequency is annual, of course. And when should I give this annual bonus? I'll select the month as well. So I want to give this in the month of August. So annual bonus is given in the month of August. Should this be included in CTC? Yes or no? Should this be taxable? That is also yes or no, depending on your preference. You please select it. You can also decide if the tax for this component should be deducted in that particular month itself as a one-time tax deduction, or should this be distributed across the rest of the financial year. That's the choice that's given to you. You can select whatever you want to follow. Now here also you can select either a flat value or a slab wise value. In this case, I have given a fixed value of 50,000 rupees per annum. Then you also have an ad hoc section where you can create any component which is not defined in your salary structure, which is not a part of your CTC. I call it an out of the box component. So this component will be added to the salary or a particular month's salary only if it is required. Otherwise, you will not add this component at all. It could be an earning or it could be a deduction as well. So if it is earning, we have so many components that we have created. You can choose whichever you want, or if you want to create a new one, you can create a new component. I'm creating a component called as March 2022 ad hoc. Should be taxable. Should I apply ESI for this? I'll say yes. You can say yes or no depending on your preference. And the same goes with the ad hoc deduction as well. You can create a component, March 2022 deduction component. This should obviously be removed from the taxable income if I'm deducting that from the employee's salary. So you can create any number of ad hoc components in the system. So that's about salary components, and the next option is your payout settings. So this is where you will be able to add your payout details, like your employee's bank account details. You can just click on the edit and add the bank details over here. If you want to do it in bulk, you can always import the bank details by uploading an Excel sheet. So you need to download the Excel sheet and then upload it by selecting the file. Then we have a few payslip formats. You can choose the payslips from one of these formats that are there. So we have 8 different formats. Every format looks different. Choose the one that suits the best for your organization. Then the last option in your settings, advanced settings, is your bank integration. This is the coolest feature that Kredily has offered to its clients at no cost. We have 2 ways of integrating your bank. One is with the ICICI Bank itself. If you are a company which is having a corporate account with ICICI, you can integrate your ICICI Bank with Kredily. If you don't have an ICICI corporate account, you can always use Kredily's virtual banking platform, which is called as KredPay. You can add KredPay's bank account as a beneficiary in your personal banking. It could be any bank. You can add Kredily's KredPay bank account, transfer the amount to KredPay's account, and then you can disperse your salary from KredPay itself. And this would hardly take about 2 minutes for you to disperse your salary to your employees, and you don't have to send the file, generate OTP multiple times, and send the file to the bank people, acknowledge it. All of that jazz is avoided, due to this new feature that Kredily has introduced. So please check it out, and if you have any questions regarding this, you can always reach out to us. And the next option is your setup payroll option. This is where we will also get an option to assign or create the salary structure that's needed. So here what you can do is, you can see I have already created the salary structure. If you want, you can make changes to it as well. So I've mentioned my basic as 40% of CTC, HRA as 40% of basic. Then I have PF, ESI, medical allowance, phone reimbursement, special allowance. If you want to add another component, you can always add another component as well. So this is my salary structure. A basic structure is already created in the system if you want to follow that, or if you want to create a new one, you can always create a new structure and assign it to your employees. And to assign structure, you need to go to assign structure here, select the employee, click on assign salary structure, select the structure, select an effective date, and apply that structure to your employee. It's as simple as that. And once the structure is assigned, the entire breakup will be shown to you here. You can also toggle between monthly and annual breakup. So CTC, basic, HRA, vehicle allowance, conveyance, PF, phone reimbursement, special allowance, everything will be shown to you in the system. You can export this if required as well. And the last thing after doing all the setup is to process your payroll. And this is the last step of your entire payroll processing. And let me show you how simple that gets. So for example, now let's say I want to process payroll for the month of Feb. So I'm going to the Feb month. And system is going to show you the basic information that you need to know before processing payroll, like your attendance and leave. Just bear with me for a moment. There's some connection issues, I guess. Yeah. So this is the attendance data for the month of Feb. So my employees, few of them have not logged in for 20 days, for 9 days. So, randomly they have not clocked in. Now, if I want to add loss of pay, firstly, the loss of pay will be automatically calculated by the system, but I have manually overridden that. But if you want to give loss of pay to your employees, you can click on the edit button. Just type how many ever loss of pays you want to give to your employees and save it. Right, sorry, I have already processed payroll for this employee. That's why I'm not getting an option to process payroll for him again. So let's take this employee and you can make changes to the loss of pay. Sorry. It will also show the leave details, how many ever leaves are pending, how many leaves were applied, how many leaves are approved, how many were rejected. All of the leave related details will also be shown to you by the system. Then if there is any salary revision, that will also be shown to you. For example, Neeraj Kumar's salary has been revised in the month of Feb. And if there is a variable component given to your employee, that will also be shown to you. So this employee is getting a monthly incentive of 10,000 rupees in the month of Feb. And if you want to add an ad hoc value, you can add the ad hoc value from here. Just click on add employee and you will get an option to add the ad hoc. And if you want to hold somebody's salary, you can go to salary on hold option. You can add the employee and put the status as on hold. Here I've already added Aruna's salary on hold. If you want to remove this, you can click on the edit button and you can remove the hold. But if you want to add somebody on hold, you can click on add employee. Just type the employee name and make the status as on hold. I'm not going to do this because I don't want to do this. Then the last option is your tax override option. But if you would ask me, I would say this option is, you will not be using this option because system is going to calculate your income tax precisely and a perfect income tax calculation will be done by the system by itself. But still, for any given reason, if you would like to change income tax, if you would like to reduce the tax deduction or increase the tax deduction, you can click on the edit button and type whatever income tax you want to add for that employee for that particular month. Same goes with your professional tax as well. You don't have to use this module because system is going to calculate professional tax precisely depending on the location. But for whatever reason, if you would like to change the professional tax for that particular month, you can edit and make the changes. I'm not going to do this because I don't want to change the income tax. And lastly, the system will also show the pay register. This is the pay register for the month of February. I've already processed payroll for the first 4 employees. Now if I want to process payroll for, let's say I want to process payroll only for one employee, this employee Neeraj, I'll only select him and I will process payroll for him. Payroll is processed. Now let me also generate payslips for him. I'll select him, click on generate payslip. Done. Payslip is also generated. This blue symbol here, again some connection issues I guess, just bear with me for a moment. Yeah, so this blue symbol here indicates that the payslip has been generated for that employee. Once this is done, the last option is your payout. In payout, you will get an option to select your employees and disburse salaries for them with just one click of a button. Now let's say I want to process payroll for this employee Anil. So I'll only select Anil and hit the payout button and the salary will be disbursed from Kredily itself. You don't have to give this file to somebody and ask them to generate OTP multiple times. You enter the OTP multiple times and that is going to take another few hours for the salary to be processed. All of that hassle process is avoided here. So this process is entirely clean and smooth. Just one click of a button, salary is disbursed to your employee's bank account. And this happens in less than 10 minutes every month. So the setup was made in less than 20 minutes and the salary processing will take less than 10 minutes or even 5 minutes for that matter. So this is the whole process itself. If you have any questions about payroll, I would request you to write your questions in the chat section. I'm going to take all of your questions and answer them.